Do you ever wonder why OCD intrusive thoughts feel so real and why you can't get rid of them? We're going to talk all about it. Stay tuned. That's what's up next. Hi, my name is Natasha Daniels. I'm a therapist and I make videos for people with anxiety or OCD. And today I want to talk to you about why those OCD intrusive thoughts or feelings feel so real and why you can't get rid of them. That's like the side note, right? But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified because I do make new videos every Thursday. Also, check out my website, natashadaniels.com, where I offer free webinars and classes and resources for you to support you with OCD. So the reason why those intrusive thoughts feel so real is not because you're crazy or because you don't get it or you're not smart. It's actually not your mind, it's your brain. And so the way that OCD works is it's a circuitry issue. And so when we talk about anxiety, that's your amygdala, that's your emergency alarm bell, that's different. When we're talking about OCD, we're talking about the circuitry in your brain. It's a different part of the brain, the basal ganglia, and there's circuitry around that. And you're having an alarm bell as well, but it is an upsetting thought or feeling. And it is different for each person because it is impacting a different part of the brain. And so your brain might alert you to the fact that this is dangerous or that you're bad or that it's not clean or it's not done or it's not complete or that it's gross, right? It's different for each person. And so you have this upsetting thought. It's this danger or upsetting feeling, right? And it feels real because there is a part of your brain that's lighting up that's saying danger, danger, or uncomfortableness, right? There's a problem here. And that is physiological. There's a message that's happening that's saying, we have a problem. We have an issue. That's not coming from your imagination. That's coming from some firing of the brain, right? And so when you feel that discomfort or that, right, that's real. It's real because you're getting a false alarm that's happening. Now the problem is your brain will be like, okay, this is the circuitry part, right? It hands it off to something else in the brain and it says, do something about this, take action. We got problems here. So it could be a false problem. And most of the time it is. And so then you take action. I'm going to do a compulsion. I'm going to avoid this or do this. I'm going to think this. I'm going to do something to get rid of this uncomfortable thought. That's why we have physical compulsions where I'm like, I'm going to wash this, or we have avoidance compulsions. I'm not going to sit in that place. It's contaminated. I'm not going to avoid that place. I'm going to avoid these words, whatever it might be. And we have mental compulsions. I'm going to argue with my brain. I'm not that. Don't worry about it. That's ridiculous. Why did I have that thought? Right? Or maybe I have to say a phrase or do something else, or I'm going to check. The compulsions are different for each person. That's the behavior or the action. And don't forget that avoidance is a behavior, right? The problem is when you do that, the off part of that circuitry is never hit, right? So we have an alarm, we have action, and we have something that's supposed to turn it off, right? It does not get turned off. And so you feel a little bit of relief. You wash your hands and you're like, okay, I did something. But then the brain's like, I got nothing here. You've done nothing. We have a problem, right? So there's a miscommunication. If you think about these 3 points of the brain, it's notifying you that there is an issue, right? And that issue is different for each one of you depending on your OCD themes, and it can change over time. So notifying you of the issue, we got an issue. Number 2 is action. What are you going to do about this? Well, I'm going to mentally argue. I'm going to do a compulsion. I'm going to get reassurance. I'm going to avoid whatever that is. And the third part of the brain, which is totally turned off, is good job. We're good. Let me tell the brain over here who notified us about this problem, turn it off. We're good. We're done. That part never happens. And so you feel incomplete, or you feel uncomfortable, or you feel worried, or you feel like there's still danger. And so you do it over and over and over again. That's the vicious cycle of OCD. It's not in your head, it's actually in your brain. The great news is there's something called neuroplasticity. I know that's a fancy big word, but neuroplasticity means you can change the wiring of your brain. And so what we have found is when your brain notifies that there's an emergency, oh my gosh, this is gross or disgusting or uncomfortable or scary or whatever, right? Because it's different for each one of you, right? So when number 1 is triggered, we cannot control that part. So when that's triggered, it goes on to number 2 and it goes, do this, right? And the action part of the brain is like, I got to do this or avoid this or do something. I have to take action because this is serious. When you override that because you understand OCD and you know this feels really real. I get this feels really real. This feels scary and dangerous. And even though intellectually I get this doesn't make any sense, I know I don't need to wash my hands again. I already washed it. Or I know I don't need to tell my mom these behaviors I did because I know that it's my OCD, right? Even if you intellectually get it, that alarm bell is like, do it, do it, do it, do it. It's so loud. But when you just sit in the discomfort and you go, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Then it eventually sends a message back to number 1 saying, we're not going to do it. And number 1 goes, okay, well, next time I'm not going to alarm that as loud. And it gets quieter and quieter as you avoid doing something to get that brief relief. And instead, you learn how to sit with the discomfort, which is incredibly hard because your brain is sending you all these signals that says, you need to do something. This is a huge, big deal. And so you're basically retraining your brain. No, I know you. That's my OCD and I'm not going to do anything. And so I'm going to retrain my brain. I'm going to rewire my brain. And that's where kids and teens and young adults and human beings in general start to make a lot of progress. So I hope this helps you understand that you're not going crazy. These are really hard feelings, and they're hard feelings because they are actually happening in your brain, and you're being powerful and brave and so strong to override those feelings, even though they're physiological, and not give in to them. And over time, you get better. That's an incredible thing to do. And it takes bravery, and it takes one small step at a time. So know that you are doing a really hard, brave thing when you don't give in to that alarm that's and you're not doing the action part that wants to grow the OCD, whether that's mental or physical or avoidance, and you're learning to sit with the discomfort. So the next time you have an intrusive thought and you're like, why does this scare me so much? Or why does this gross me out so much? Or why does this make me feel so uncomfortable? Because it's different for each person. Realize that it's because it's real. It's happening in your brain, and so your brain thinks it's real. And that can be really scary. The great news is there are ways to override this, and when you don't give in to that false fear or that false feeling, even though it feels so real, things can start to improve. So I hope that you found this helpful. Don't forget to find the sparkle in everything you do, and I will talk to you again next Thursday. Take care.